Let me call to order this meeting of the West Palm Beach City Commission. Today is Monday, January 22nd, 2024, and the time is 5 p.m. We will start off this meeting, as we do all of our meetings of the Commission, with a moment of silence, please. Madam President, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? Let me remind the audience of the rules of civility and decorum that govern this meeting. Officials shall be recognized by the chair and shall not interrupt the speaker. Public comment shall be addressed to the City Commission as a whole and not to any individual on the dais or in the audience. Displays of anger, rudeness, ridicule, impatience, lack of respect, and personal attacks are strictly prohibited. Unauthorized remarks from the audience, stamping of feet, whistles, yells, and similar demonstrations should not be permitted. Please govern yourselves accordingly, as offenders may be removed from the meeting. Also, anyone wishing to speak on an item at this meeting shall complete a comment card for each agenda item the person wants to address, and that comment card should include the person's full name, address, and the number of the agenda item, and it should be delivered to the clerk before that agenda item is called. All right, thank you. Madam City Administrator, are there any additions, deletions, reorganization of the agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioners, we do have 4 reports from the Internal Auditor's Office to receive and file. I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval. I move approval, receipt, and file.
Very good. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. All right, we'll turn to the consent calendar, items 7.1 through 7.6. We do have a card. Commissioners, do you have any comments on the items on the consent? Okay, we do have a card. Item 7.6, Sandy Makovich.
Sandy Makovich, West Palm Beach. We're talking about the photographic center here in City Hall that have been there for 16 years. And if I'm reading this correctly, the city took them to court and evicted them, kicking them out. Doesn't give a reason why. But this is on the consent calendar, and this is going to cost taxpayers $250,000. None of the Cornerstone 5 consider that worth a conversation, $250,000? This is where you just pass everything, no discussion, and it looks like you're going to pass this one too. Keith, you want to share why they're being evicted? No? I thought maybe one of the owners passed you in the hallway and forgot to genuflect. This is $250,000 taxpayer dollars. No discussion? Taxpayer money, Keith. If it was coming out of your pocket, there'd be a hell of a discussion, wouldn't there? Commissioners, nothing? Nothing from the commissioners. Thank you. Thank you for supporting the residents, as you always do. Continue to take care of the developers.
Thank you very much. All right. There are no other cards. I will entertain a motion for consent.
Mayor, I move approval of consent agenda items 7.1 through 7.6.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Now turn to item 8.1, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 5074-23, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida at Chapter 86, Traffic and Parking, by amending and restating Article 4, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, to amend Section 86-292, immobilization of vehicles on private property, to add new provisions relating to notice, method of immobilization, and towing and removal procedure. Mr. Fana.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. Armando Fana, Assistant City Administrator. We did have two slight changes since the first reading. One of them are immaterial changes to the signage language. There was some additional language in there that we didn't need. We took that out. And the other one was languages that are required to be posted when somebody gets booted. The original, or our existing ordinance had English, Spanish, German, and French. We removed German and French and added Creole because those are the three most spoken languages in the county. Those are the only changes. Everything else remains the same.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions, comments on this item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of ordinance number 5074-23 on second reading with changes.
Very good. Any comment, question? I need a second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
We're going to read the ordinance first.
All those opposed, like sign. I'm sorry?
Ordinance.
It's an ordinance. We're going to read the ordinance first.
Thank you very much. First meeting. All right. Madam Clerk, could you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 5074-23, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending the Code of Ordinances of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, at Chapter 86, Traffic and Parking, by amending and restating Article 4, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, to amend Section 86-292, immobilization of vehicles on private property, to add new provisions relating to notice, method of immobilization, and towing and removal procedures, providing a conflicts clause, a codification clause, and a severability clause, providing an effective date, and for other purposes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We'll now go to the quasi-judicial portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll need you to make your disclosures, please. We will start with Commissioner Ward. Thought you were ready.
As to items 9.1 through 9.6, I have not had ex parte communications, have not received written communications, have not conducted an investigation, have not made a site visit, have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Lambert.
I'm still reviewing them. Can you come back to me?
All right. President Warren.
Yes, Mayor. As to items 9.1 through 9.5, I have not had ex parte communication, not received written communication, not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit, not received expert opinions. As to matter 9.6, I have had ex parte communication with the representative of the applicant. I have not received written communications, not conducted an investigation, not made a site visit, not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox.
As to items 9.1, 9.3, 9.4, 9.5, and 9.6, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. As to item 9.2, I have had ex parte communications with the applicant. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit. I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Commissioner Peduzzi.
Thank you. As to items 9.1, 9.2, 9.3, 9.4, 9.5, 9.6, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received any expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made a part of the record.
Thank you. Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you. As to items 9.1, 9.3, 9.5, and 9.6, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, nor have I received expert opinions. As to item 9.2, I have had ex parte communications with the applicant and representatives. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation. I have not made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions. As to item 9.4, I have not had ex parte communications. I have not received written communications. I have not conducted an investigation, but I have made a site visit, and I have not received expert opinions. I request that these disclosures and all written communications be made part of the record.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can you swear in all witnesses, please?
Would everyone wishing to speak on items 9.1 through 9.6 please stand and raise your right hand? Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Item 9.1, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 5079-24 regarding a rezoning to change the zoning designation of approximately 2.6 acres located at 2500 North Florida Mango Road from general commercial to commercial plan development, and resolution number 2-24 regarding the development regulations and conditions for the Tropicana self-storage commercial plan development and granting a waiver of the zoning and land development regulations.
Mayor Commissioner Angela Van, Planning and Zoning Administrator. There are no changes since first reading, and just a reminder, the commission has to approve the resolution as part of the second reading.
Very good. Any questions, comments on this item? Commissioners, I don't think we have any cards. Then I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 5079-24, a rezoning to change the zoning designation of approximately 2.6 acres located at 2500 North Florida Mango Road from general commercial to commercial plan development. This motion is based upon the application submitted, the staff report, factual testimony, the recommendation of the planning board, and the findings that the request complies with the comprehensive plan and the standards in section 94-32 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 5079-24, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending the zoning map of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida by rezoning two parcels located at 2500 North Florida Mango Road, approximately 2.6 acres from general commercial GC to commercial plan development CPD to create the Tropicana self-storage commercial plan development, providing for the establishment of the development regulations by separate resolution, declaring this zoning map amendment to be consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, revising the zoning map of the city accordingly, providing for an effective date and for other purposes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Commissioner Fox?
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 2-24, establishing development regulations and conditions for the Tropicana self-storage commercial plan development and granting a waiver from the zoning and land development regulations.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those
Aye.
opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.2, public hearing and first reading of ordinance number 5080-24, a request by Heather Danforth on behalf of Alexander de Milan, owner of Mercer Park Homes LLC, for rezoning to change the existing zoning designation of 18 parcels along the north and south side of Alpha Street for multifamily low-density residential, MF14, to multifamily high-density residential, MF32.
Hello, good evening. Heather Danforth, Integrated Perspectives. Thank you. I'm here with, Alex Milan. He is a developer, and we are here for rezoning for 3.84 acres from multifamily 14 to multifamily 32. I'd like to say that this does not require a future land use change. It's consistent with the future land use. And we will be coming forward to you for a site plan approval. Before we get started, I want to just first say that this project is located adjacent to Mercer Park 1 on the west side. This parcel was also zoned multifamily 14 and was rezoned to multifamily 32. The developer is now working on the second project, and he's asking to rezone for this one to do a project that is compatible with the existing project. So now kind of talking about location. This is in the JTD, the Jefferson Terminal District, which is an area south of Okeechobee and north of Belvedere. It's an area that is close to downtown, has great access to transit, and already has a nice network for walking and biking throughout the city. Zooming in, it's 3 parcels, 3 blocks of parcels together, and they're located at the south of the corner of Mercer Avenue in Old Okeechobee. And the project that I talked about at the beginning, Mercer Park, is located just to the west with the first star with the 1. And then just to kind of give you an idea of some of the redevelopment in the area, the District Flats, which is 178 units of residential, is to the south. That's number 2. And number 3 is the Grandview Market, which is shopping and some restaurants. And then also just want to note the city complex because it's a big employer in the area. So kind of looking a little bit closer, those 3 blocks in that major intersection of Old Okeechobee and Mercer Avenue. The north block is the closest to Okeechobee Road, which is zoned commercial, and to the east is zoned industrial. And then the south block is a smaller parcel on the south side of Alpha, and those streets are all existing. And then there's a small park parcel that will be a park later on the south side that's closest to District Flats. So this is kind of the meat and potatoes here. This is the rezoning. The parcels are outlined in white, and on the left-hand side is the existing MF14 parcels, and on the right-hand side is the proposed MF32 parcels. I simplified the zoning map for this so you could kind of get an understanding. On the left-hand side, you can see the RPD/32. That's Mercer Park. That's right adjacent to the project, and that's actually turned into a PD, but it has underlying density of allowable 32. And then on the south side, the District Flats, which we talked about, that's a CPD, which has underlying zoning of MF32 too. So it's consistent with both of those projects there. And it is also consistent with the multifamily future land use. So we did conduct a lot of public outreach for this project. We did one-on-ones, we had a public meeting, we noticed the public meeting, we followed up with people, we got some letters from everyone, and we've had some great turnout, and we've had a dialogue with everyone throughout this process. And the biggest outcome of this is we have letters of support that are focused in the JTD from people that own 56 properties in the area. So we're working on that and trying to keep the dialogue open with everybody. So with that, it's the rezoning is consistent with the standards of review. The first one is a consistency with a comp plan. Again, it's the future land use is compatible with the rezoning MF32. The whole area is actually multifamily future land use designation. And then it's also compatible with the idea of redevelopment in the city, and that the area is east of I-95, and we're encouraging redevelopment in the area. It's also consistent with the transportation element of the comprehensive plan, the vision of having a more multimodal city. This has great walking and biking opportunity because of the grid, but also we're so close to the airport, we're close to the Tri-Rail, Bright Line, downtown, and then even close to the city services if people were to walk right from their job to downtown to the proposed project. And in addition, we are coming forward with the affordable housing resolution, and we're proposing 61 new workforce units for the project. The other area of that this is in compliance with the standard of review is the changed conditions. This area is an area in transition. The picture on the top can show you that the area where the district flats was just an outdoor storage area at one point, and now that area has redeveloped. And that there's also been a lot of projects from the city there. There's been roadway projects on Mercer. There's been applications to improve it at bike lanes in Clare and Caroline. And then studies have been conducted in the past saying, that people are investing in this area and they're actually kind of making their business looks nicer. So with that, it's also in conformance with the standards of review, with the conformance with the code. We are in site plan review. We will come forward with that to you, and it will conform to Resolution 306-22. And we are asking for waivers, but those waivers are consistent with the other redevelopment projects in the area because we want to match with what's going on in that area. It's also consistent with the land uses. The north of the project is commercial on Old Okeechobee. And then east of the project is industrial. So this higher density will provide a transitional residential use to those higher intensity zoning designations. And then both the west and the south, the west is where Mercer Park 2 is multifamily, and the south is a mix of multifamily and single family at the time, but it is all a future land use of multifamily. So with that, it's also consistent with the capacity for public facilities. We've received our determination for SCAD for the schools. We've met the standards for the traffic for Palm Beach County. And we're under review with the city staff. And we're going to improve drainage, and we're coordinating with staff with drainage and stormwater. And we have reached an agreement with housing staff as well for our affordable housing component. Again, in the end, this area, the natural environment, it kind of needs more trees. So we're actually going to better the area. A lot of the trees in the area are older, but we're trying to make it so that we move some of the nice ones to the park, and then the area and the ecosystem would be better overall. Property values. We did a neighborhood study for the area, and we've seen an uptick in the property values in the area. Not just COVID, but there was an uptick before that. And now with the redevelopment in the area, the redevelopment is triggering higher values per price per square foot for the houses and price per square foot for the land values. So this, with the expanding market and increasing the identity of the area, will increase the property values overall in the area. Okay, and finally, the development pattern. This is consistent with the standards of review of the development pattern. Again, this is at what is considered an important intersection of the JTD. Mercer Avenue and Old Okeechobee both are like main roads that go in and out. So this is considered a main quarter. And we're going to step down from that main quarter with a less intense use from industrial and general commercial. And then we're going to basically bring the redevelopment together by connecting them all. And we're going to further the vision of workforce housing in the city, which is consistent with being a receiving area from the downtown, and we'll work with the city throughout that process. And with that, I see if you have any questions, or just go ahead and have Valentina go.
Thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant before we hear from staff? Commissioner Lambert and Commissioner Ward.
Thank you so much for the presentation. And I know that today is just discussion of the rezoning, and that you'll come forward to us later with a plan about the entire plan for the building and the project. But because we're talking about increasing density, and this relates to the workforce housing, I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the developer's plan for the workforce housing and how it will mix with the rest of the project. I think that that is something that we are constantly looking for in the city, and that this is a great place to do it. We just want to make sure it's a good fit here.
Okay, yeah, thank you. So the developer there'll be 2 blocks. Let me go back to slide 6. There'll be 2 blocks, a north block and the south block. And on the north block is the larger block, and it's also the block that's adjacent to higher uses. And then on the south block is the smaller block, and it's adjacent to more like the multifamily uses. So the idea is that we give more of a 50-50 mix of our 61 workforce housing units on both the north block and the south block, but we take the south block and make it smaller so it steps down to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. That was actually along the line of what I was going to ask. Do you guys have a pinpoint of what AMI you're going to be targeting for those workforce?
100 AMI, yes,
100?
yes.
Okay. Thank you.
How many years of restriction for?
20 years.
20 years. Okay. Any other questions before we hear from staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff?
Hi, Valentina Broglia, planner with Development Services. So we're here for a rezoning for Mercer Park 2. Heather covered just about all the points that I was going to make in the presentation. I did just want to add that this rezoning application did go to Planning Board on November 21st. It did receive a vote of 4-2. The two that were opposed to this was because of the site plan. However, the site plan is not a component of this application. So staff finds that it does comply with section 9432A from the zoning land development regulations under the rezoning standards and is recommending approval of ordinance 508024, rezoning multifamily low density MF14 to multifamily high density MF32. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Questions for staff? Commissioner Fox, Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you so much. I received an email from some of the residents that live on Alpha Street, and I think that they're curious. I don't know if you've heard from them as well, but they're looking to also rezone the rest of the street. I guess they're wondering, why are we only rezoning part of Alpha Street when there's a few single-family homes that are next to it? I guess that they're interested in also being part of the rezoning.
Yeah, so this is a private application, so if those neighbors would want to rezone, they would actually have to submit an application with planning and zoning, and then we would review it, and it would follow the same process that this application is currently following, and it would come up in front of you as well for rezoning approval. So they could apply if they wanted to.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lambert?
Thank you, Mayor. If I could, I have two questions.
Okay.
The first one is about the master plan. I know that, I think it was even pre-COVID, we started a master plan for this area, and I don't know where we are in that process, but I'm wondering if you can just give us an update on that and share how this fits into that planning process. Thank you.
I'll try to answer that. Rick Green, Development Services Director. We actually had a meeting just this morning to discuss the next step in the process. But this was a project, as you mentioned, we began a few years ago. We put it on hold during COVID with all the activity we had. Dodie Glass and Alex Hansen from my office are working on it. We've completed, or in the process of completing, both a traffic analysis as well as a utility analysis and stormwater analysis. So we're hopeful by early summer we can come to you in the form of a workshop. We'll certainly schedule that with the city administrator and share with you our findings, and then we will complete the report. At the end of the day, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of room for additional redevelopment of this area in terms of capacity, because we are limited from a traffic perspective. There are other improvements, and that's what we're trying to quantify right now, working with our utilities and engineering department. But there'll also be a demand for additional improvements of both the stormwater and some of the roadway improvements that are going to be required there. So we're going to try to put together a package. We'll workshop it, and then we'll come back to you with the formal plan, but we're getting very close to having that completed.
Great, thank you. And so the plans that we're proposing now are in line with what we're seeing?
They are. We're looking at all of these that are coming in. And again, this one, because they're following Resolution 30622, the workforce housing, this is something that could have come in regardless of what we had done before.
Okay, and Mr. Green, my second question you might have an answer to. Since you mentioned traffic, and the applicant mentioned having multimodal transportation options being, walkable, bikeable, I'm wondering if this project, or if maybe it's in the master plan, has any discussion about the safety of the crossing from the Warehouse District over to Grandview Heights and Flamingo Park towards Howard Park, because I know that there's always just some concern about safety in crossing there.
That certainly will be covered in the master plan. And with regard to multimodal, we're looking at that for the entire corridor, the entire area of the Jefferson Terminal District. So that's something we will address as well.
At one point, we had talked about as developers come in, that they might be able to add funding or support for that. I don't know if that's something we've discussed with this particular developer.
With this particular developer, no, but you may remember one of the earlier efforts we had with the district flats. I believe there was an improvement that they contributed to for the Caroline Street improvement, something that's going to be required to improve safety and access to and from the Jefferson Terminal District.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? All right. We do have, any other questions in general before I go on? All right, we have several cards. We'll start with Janice or Amerigo Fourier. Janice, or do you want to speak? Or okay, so I'll read into the record. I support the project and the recent development of the warehouse district. All right. Two other cards, and I will call out your name. Prepare to approach the podium. Ethan Clark, okay, and James Cazaros. Mr. Clark?
Hello. So I'm just going to read the letter that
Could you state your name for the record, please, and address?
Sorry, Ethan Clark, and my property is 1222 Alpha Street. I'm also here speaking on behalf of 1220 Alpha Street and 1290 Alpha Street. And this is the letter that Commissioner Christy Fox was referencing. So we are collectively writing as property owners on the southeast side of Alpha Street and Mercer Park 2. Alpha Street. Mercer Park 2 is applying for a zoning change from MF 14 to MF 32 on the northeast side of Alpha Street between Mercer Avenue and Wilkins Avenue in the southeastern section of our block. Our collective request is that the zoning change not only be made to the parcels owned by the developer for Mercer Park 2, but also applied to the entire eastern section of Alpha Street. The City of West Palm Beach's comprehensive plan states in the introduction that no zoning boundary or regulation change shall be granted except in compliance with the plan. The plan's first policy 1.1.1 in the future land use elements cites compatibility with adjacent land uses as a primary consideration to be addressed. The plan defines compatibility as a condition in which land use or conditions can coexist in relative proximity to each other in a stable fashion over time, such that no use or condition is unduly negatively impacted directly or indirectly by another use or condition. The neighbors respectively maintain that rezoning the facing block and adjacent parcels to allow up to an 8-story building will not be compatible with the remaining houses on Alpha Street. If retained with the MF 3014 district, which limits the building height to only 30 feet. By applying the zoning change to all of Alpha Street between Mercer Park and Wilkins Avenue, it would keep consistent zoning and not have half of the block be incompatible with the rest of the zoning. Rezoning for Mercer Park 2 permits large-scale development that is not compatible with the rest of the street unless the other parcels that will be dominated by the new development are also included in the MF 32 district. By changing the other parcels to MF 32 would allow the single-family homeowners who will be negatively affected by 2 years of construction, an 8-story building next to their single-story homes, and increased neighborhood traffic to reap some benefit in future property values. We thank you for your consideration and ask you to ensure compatible zoning for the neighborhood.
Thank you. And I think the answer to that was they needed to apply for their own parcels. Okay, we'll go to James Cazaros.
Hello, James Cazares. I represent a group that owns 8 parcels or properties in this area in proximity to the project, and we're in full support of this project. We think it's going to enhance the community and property values and be a good project.
Okay, thank you. We do have another card from someone who does not want to speak, but from Judy Torres, and she says, I approve of this project. I live in the community. It gives value to the community. I'm going to leave it there so I can read this other word. Okay, it gives value to the community. So she supports it. Okay, any other questions or comments? Commissioner Fox?
Thank you. I know we went through this, but since the resident is here with the letter, I'm wondering if staff can just give us a little bit more, I guess, information for the residents. If they wanted to apply separately, do they all have to apply, or can they apply as a neighborhood, or is there any other instructions you can give us?
They would need to apply for each address that they want to be rezoned. They need an owner's consent to rezone. It's part of our application process. And then they would go before you as well for approval.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve ordinance number 5080-24. The motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the application submitted, the staff report, and the findings that the request is consistent with the comprehensive plan and meets all standards provided in section 94-32 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, can you read the ordinance, please?
Ordinance number 5080-24, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida, amending the zoning map of the City of West Palm Beach, Florida by rezoning 18 parcels located on the north and south side of Alpha Street, east of Bursa Avenue and west of Wilkins Avenue, and comprised of 3.84 acres from multifamily low density to multifamily high density, declaring this zoning map amendment to be consistent with the comprehensive plan of the city, revising the zoning map of the city accordingly, providing for an effective date and for other purposes.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.3, public hearing of resolution number 324-23, a request by Patricia Monahan of Marine Construction, Inc., on behalf of Mary Cheatham for a Class A special use permit to construct a private dock greater than 100 feet in length on the subject property located at 7405 South Flagler Drive within the single-family low-density, or SF7, residential zoning district.
Good evening. I'm Patricia Monahan, and I'm here on behalf of Mary Cheatham to construct a private dock greater than 100 feet in length within the single-family low-density SF7 residential zoning district at 705 South Flagler Drive. The property is currently occupied by single-family residents on 0.4 acres. The property possesses non-contiguous riparian rights. The dock north of the site is 104 feet 5 inches, and the south dock is 94 feet. The owner is requesting to construct a 104-foot 1-inch dock. So the waiver requested is 4 feet 1 inch. And the reason behind this is due to the code stating that we could only go out 40 feet from the shoreline. We would only have, the mooring area would be too shallow to moor a boat. And consequently, this would require constant dredging to moor a boat safely. The continued maintenance dredging would eventually continue to wash away the upland shoreline, causing additional hazardous conditions to the upland in order to maintain proper water depth for mooring a vessel. So the further extension into the waterway as requested will allow for safe mooring without the need for constant dredging. And the dock will also be consistent with adjoining docking facilities. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
That's from the applicant. Any questions of the applicant before we hear from staff? Okay, thank you. Staff?
Thank you.
All right, good day, Mayor, Commissioners, and everyone. Jeremy Swaby, Senior Planner in Development Services. Today I'll be presenting item number 9.3. Also to mention on an added note that they obtained the Department of Environmental Protection approval. The waiver requested is from section 94-313A3I, or for the dock length. The request is for an additional 4 feet and 1 inch in length as mentioned. Staff is recommended approval per Planning Board Case Number 1961 as it complies with the standards found in Section 94-36E3 through 5, Section 94-313A3 and 4, and Section 273A2. On October 17, 2023, the Planning Board unanimously approved by 6 votes to 0. And today, staff is recommending approval of Resolution 324-23. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Any questions for staff? Any questions in general? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move approval of resolution number 324-23 for a Class A special use permit to allow for the construction of a 104-foot 1-inch dock on the subject property. This motion is based upon the application submitted, the staff report, factual testimony, the recommendation of the planning board, the findings that the request complies with the comprehensive plan, and the standards in section 94-36E3, 4 and 5, sections 94-313A3 and 4, and section 94-273A2 of the city zoning and land development regulations.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.4, resolution number 1024, approving the plat entitled 875 Belvedere Road, replatting the property located at 865 and 875 Belvedere Road, consisting of approximately 0.52 acres. Who's speaking to this matter?
Mayor, I'm being told that the applicant is not here. Oh, you are, okay.
Dan Krentzman, 875 Belvedere Road. I represent the owner. This is the plat. It's a fenced-in lot on the corner of Belvedere and Parker, formerly a moose lodge that's since been demolished. The site plan has already been approved. This replat is a condition to comply with the requirements for that approval. I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Lambert?
Thank you so much. I submitted this recently to staff, but hopefully word got back to the developer. The site, I'm sure it's because of the massive amount of winds we had over the last few weeks, but the fencing is, and the protection along the fencing has just been demolished. And so if you all could fix that, that would be helpful.
I have been working on it. The company that erected the fence has been sold, and it's a nightmare getting a hold of them. I'm working on finding someone else to take care of it. It's just been rather difficult.
Okay, great. And could you, just since we have you here, give us an update on the timing of the project? I know residents in the area have seen it fenced off for some time now, and just curious about an update.
The building permit has finally been approved after about 3.5 years of working with the city and the county. It is now approved as of last week, so I am starting the process to now bid to construction companies to actually start the work.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Any other questions of the applicant before we hear from staff? If not, staff?
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and Commissioners. Alexa Anglier, planner for the record. So this is a minor subdivision replat to combine 2 parcels into one. It did have an approved site plan. And then I just want some clarification. So since the site plan is for a medical marijuana dispensary, and you guys are well aware that you approved ordinance number 504423, that prohibited medical marijuana dispensaries, any new ones coming in, would be prohibited use. But because this was already approved site plan on May 12th, and then they switched their entrance, so the application was already submitted, they already had approval. That's why this was considered a grandfathered in use to be allowed for this location. Staff finds that it meets all the standards of the replat, and we are recommending approval. Any questions from staff?
Any questions for staff? Any questions, Commissioner Lambert?
I'm wondering if staff wants to comment on the applicant's comment about it taking 3 years to get the application.
So part of that is because they switched their driveway entrance, so it did not take 3 years. They switched their site plan. And if you switch your site plan, depending on how you switch it, it requires us to look into it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, if there are no other questions, we do have a card. John Rogala Sobieski. Sorry if I pronounced your name. All right, come on up.
Yes, sir. I live on Avon Road.
Say your name, please.
John
and address the
Rogala,
record, please.
John Sobieski.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I live on Avon Road, and this piece of property is right behind my property. And have they told you they're building a dispensary, a medical marijuana dispensary? And I'm a little concerned. You're turning Belvedere. We got adult gentlemen's club. We got a tattoo parlor. We've had 4 pieces of property that were seized by the federal government for a money laundering operation. I wish you give consideration to Belvedere like you do Dixie, and this lot is an eyesore. I mean, I was going to file nuisance lawsuits against them, but I mean, hopefully they clean it up. And do you know they're going to open a medical marijuana dispensary there? Or do you care, sir?
This is time for you to talk. It's not question and answer.
Okay, well, I told them, I called them up before, said I would have Homeland Security there every day running their workers off. And that is still what I'm going to do if they build a medical marijuana dispensary, because marijuana is going to be legalized in this state probably 2 to 3 years. So it's going to be recreational. I'm very familiar with this business. I'm from California. I've had those businesses. And you're going to have all kinds of people coming up and down the back of my property, parking there, and attracting all kinds of people I don't want around my house. I mean, in California, they even put them in separate zoning areas. I mean, they don't want them around neighborhoods. That's about all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you very much. It's the only card I have. Any other questions, comments, commissioners?
Mayor, just a question.
Yes, Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you. Just for staff to clarify the slide that you made and in response to the residents' comments. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, previous to, I think it was maybe 6 months, a year ago, this body changing the regulation that now limits medical marijuana facilities and where they can be. Prior to that, we allowed medical marijuana facilities, and I know that this was in coordinates with with federal laws, that we treat medical marijuana as the same as pharmacies. And so this was already, as you mentioned, grandfathered in under those regulations, although now we are looking at more closely regulating where they go throughout the city.
Correct. So this application, actually, this site plan did already get approved in 2020, but they came back. I believe part of it was because of the county, because we of the city don't control that Belvedere Road. The county controls it. And I believe part of that was they wanted to change that entrance. So because the county wanted the driveway entrance to change, it forced them to come back to us, change the site plan, so the plans matched what the county wanted.
Okay. And, you know, I don't know the product company that's going to be there, but I do know that there's one on South Dixie that is very reputable, is very clean. You know, you see people utilizing it just like they would a pharmacy, and I'm hopeful that this location will be along those same lines.
Madam Commissioner, if I can add your question as well. The ordinance that the commission approved several months ago now prohibits medical marijuana dispensaries throughout the entire city. So I think we have a total, I could be wrong, but I think the number is 13. Again, we've got several on Clematis Street. The others are scattered throughout the city, but on a go-forward basis, they will be prohibited.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this item? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 10-24, creating the plat entitled 875 Belvedere Road. This motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the application submitted, the staff report, the findings that the plat complies with all applicable provisions of Chapter 177 Florida statutes and is consistent with the comprehensive plan and complies with plat requirements of Section 94-44 and the subdivision design standards set forth in Section 94-342 of the city's zoning and land development regulations.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.5, public hearing of resolution number 16-24 regarding a request by Lindsay Jean-Louis of Urban Design Studio on behalf of Vita Nova Village LLC and Vita Nova Village 3 LLC for the approval of a special site plan review for an affordable housing project in accordance with resolution number 306-22 to construct a 12-unit residential building, including a variance and 2 waivers.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. Lindsay Jean-Louis with Urban Design Studio on behalf of Vita Nova Village, LLC. And the request we have before you this evening is for the approval of a special site plan review for an affordable housing project in accordance with resolution number 306-22 to construct a 12-unit residential building, including a variance and 2 waivers. And just to set a background for Vita Nova, they're a local accredited nonprofit agency established in 1998 in the city of West Palm Beach. Through city, county, and federal funding, they assist homeless youth and youth aging out of the foster care programs through support services via housing, education, employment, and supportive living services. And this target audience is, again, those youth and young adults between 18 and 25, some of which who have not finished high school, without family support, unemployed, LGBTQ youth, and again, that older foster youth population. And the main campus for Vita Nova is at 2724 North Australian Avenue, but the site that we are focusing on are owned by Vita Nova at the southwest corner of Alpha Street and Mercer Ave, just outside of downtown West Palm. The 3 sites total 0.77 acres. 1330 Alpha Street is that vacant lot that you see, and then 1320 and 1316 Alpha Street are the built lots with existing units owned by Vita Nova. As part of our application, we are targeting 12 proposed efficiency units on the vacant lot. Again, Vita Nova owns the existing 13 multifamily units on the easternmost lots. And these lots, as part of this application, are proposed to be combined via unity of title. And as with the existing lots, the applicant's intending to leave the majority of the lot unchanged in its existing condition. Minor modifications such as updating the dumpster to be code compliant, restriping a handicapped parking space to access the new building, and also enhanced landscaping throughout the existing easternmost sites will be proposed, but outside of that, it is to remain unchanged. And this is just a depiction of the existing conditions. The site's in pretty good condition. The vacant lot that you see, there's a mango tree on the right that will be mitigated with its removal with additional landscaping throughout the site. And that live oak tree that you see on the left will remain. The zoning for the site is multifamily, 20 multifamily medium residential at 20 units an acre. Again, through this resolution 306-22, we are permitted double the density at 40 units an acre, so as long as 50% of those bonus units are provided at less than 100% AMI. And the future land use is multifamily. And as you can see, the zoning and land use should remain unchanged and are consistent with the surrounding area. And for the site data, as previously mentioned, the proposed density is 32.6 dwelling units an acre, which is consistent with the max as set in Resolution 306-22 of 40 units an acre. Specifically for the new building, the target AMI is 50 to 80% AMI. We're proposing 12 studio units, and we have a restriction that the units are not to exceed 30% of any potential tenant's income, and the standard unit size for these units
is 402 square feet. The overall parking on site, again, is to remain consistent with the existing configuration. Current parking provided is actually 24 with the restriping of the ADA space. To serve the new 12-unit building, we will be providing 23 parking spaces. The code required parking space rate is 47 spaces, which we will be requiring a waiver for, which I will discuss later on in this presentation. And we are providing 2 new bike racks that are consistent with the city requirements as well. And this is just a depiction of the site plan. The proposed new building will provide 12 units, and we will be using the existing 4 access points that have served the remainder of the 13 units in the 3 buildings on this site. And this is just the depiction of the elevations, again, consistent with the architectural style and color palette of the existing Vita Nova-owned multifamily units on the eastern portion of the site. And this is a rendering looking from Alpha Street looking south. This is a rendering from the east side of the proposed new building. This is from the west side of the proposed new building. And this is a street level scale to show the consistency with the surrounding area. We're proposing 3 stories in height. On the north side of Alpha Street, there's the Mercer Park Apartments building, which is also 3-story in height. So again, consistent with the existing fabric of the area. With this application, we're requesting 1 variance and 2 waivers. The variance that we're requesting is to the minimum sign distance. We are proposing a wall sign that will be 75.4 feet away from an existing freestanding identification sign. We are requesting a parking waiver, as previously mentioned, and we are also requesting a waiver to allow a wall-mounted sign in a district that only allows freestanding signs. So for variance number 1, as you can see with the red star and the yellow star, that's the dimension of 75.4 feet. And we are requesting a wall sign, which is the Laszlo Fisher Foundation, which is the charitable donor that is requesting that representation on that building. And this is really to ensure that, you know, there's the funding and the legs to really create that 30 to 80% AMI range for which there is a demonstrated need in the city. So that is really the impetus of the request of this waiver, to allow the identification and visibility of that foundation and of Laszlo Fisher. The parking waiver request is to the city code requirement of 47 spaces. Again, we're providing 23 spaces. Via the ITE parking rate with the multifamily housing low-rise classification, it's actually been determined that there's only 19 spaces needed. So based on that industry accepted classification, we're actually providing a surplus of 4 spaces. But even still, the parking lot does remain largely vacant throughout the day. The target audience and tenants here, many of them do not have personal vehicles. So as such, there's not really a lot of the parking filled. But separately, we are also agreeing to a condition that this site has to remain at the 50 to 80% AMI range for the duration. Once a new user is to come in and break that restriction, then they will be required at that time to bring parking up to code. And we're also providing voluntary transportation demand measures through Vita Nova and other city programs. Vita Nova will provide a fleet of 3 vans run by Vita Nova for local transportation needs, assistance with PalmTran bus passes, assistance with PalmTran connection enrollment, and assistance with Uber and Lyft connected to employment, education, and healthcare appointments. The second waiver we're requesting is to allow a wall sign where otherwise only freestanding signs are permitted here. Again, this is for the charitable donor and sponsor of Laszlo Fisher. And even though it is a wall sign, it is consistent otherwise with the maximum sign area permitted for the low freestanding signage at 32 square feet. The wall sign area that we are proposing is 31.875 square feet. We are consistent with the special review standards as set forth in Resolution 306-22 for the City Commission review. We have provided a traffic impact report. We have provided the elevation, floor plans, and renderings to depict the form and scale of our proposed building. We're compatible with the surrounding properties, and staff has deemed that we have sufficient setbacks, screens, buffers, land areas, and we have also depicted and shared the unit types and proposed income levels that we are targeting. And that concludes my presentation. Again, staff recommended approval, and we are in acceptance of their conditions, so I'm available for any questions if you have them. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Any questions for the applicant before we move to staff? Commissioner Ward?
This may be more for someone from the organization rather than yourself, but I'm just curious how many applicants, given the adding on of 12 units, this is a huge need. How many applicants do they have in the pipeline right now as far as who needs housing?
I'm going to have Jeff with Vita Nova come up.
As an aside, I know Jeff, and this is a fantastic organization, and I drive by you guys every day, and you do such great work. And I know this isn't my district, but your main office is, and I really support you guys.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. The question is to address the demand.
State your name for the record.
Oh, Jeff DeMario, CEO, Vita Nova. Good evening. I think it's hard to estimate. What we're seeing right now is a graduation out of our programs that are 2-year limited. There's housing first models that exist out there only to release citizens back to the housing market that's really hard for them to meet with their salary, especially foster care kids that grow up without the support of parents to get that job, to jump into the 80% AMI. It's really difficult, so this is a step in that direction. We estimate that there's 30 young people waiting right now currently. The demand is much, much more, but this is a step in the direction to propose something that we can expand on later.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant before we hear from staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff?
Good evening. For the record, Eric Schneider, Principal Planner. Lency did a great job of going over all the particulars of this, and I do just want to verify that staff does find that the application complies with the special use standards and the site plan standards of both 9435 and also then the resolution 30622. Just want to point out that it is a lot lower scale. They could have gone bigger on the building size, but because of their use, that's why they're a lot more compatible with the single story to the rear and to the west that you saw in the one rendering. As far as Lency said, they are going to be putting more landscaping on. You saw some of the pictures where there was no trees in the front. Those are all getting filled in with some trees, so it will look a lot. Even the project will look, even the existing portion will look a lot better. So this is a project that staff supports. Planning Board did not need to give a recommendation. The 30622 requirements do not require a Planning Board. It's staff looks at it and then brings it straight to City Commission. So in case you're wondering why there's no Planning Board recommendation on this.
Mr. Schneider, can you speak to the parking waiver? There was a statement that once these properties are no longer reserved for workforce or affordable housing, that at that time they would have to apply for they would have to cure this shortage of parking spaces. Is that?
Sure. And one of the things is, and that was given the residential neighborhood, and I'm not sure how many of you are actually familiar with that. It's like a dead ends against 95. It has a lot of duplexes and triplexes in that area. There's the multifamily property that was mentioned across the street, and you know that you heard an earlier case today where a block away is the project that was up for rezoning. Those are going to be higher density. One of the concerns we had was that if this went to a full market rate project, then there would not be adequate parking with the number of units. The specific user group and that target range, and even if you look at, and you guys have granted another parking waiver for a property up on 45th Street that was also going for a very low income type level, those lower than 80% AMIs. Those users typically do not own vehicles. I mean, when you're cutting costs to have when you're paying your rent, you're not going to have cars. Their current user group does not. You saw some of the pictures there. There were maybe 4 or 5 cars in there. One of them, the bus that the Vita Nova used. So staff felt that that was appropriate for this specific user group, and any user group that would fall within that AMI. The 30622 requirements are only for a 20-year outlay on the affordability. Well, staff felt that we get to 20 years from now and this goes to market rate, say, that would possibly be concerning. Obviously, if the parking rates change, if cars fly, I don't know, in 20 years, then things could be different and be looked at again. But our concern was that we didn't just give a blanket that Vita Nova goes away, somebody else comes in, and then we've got 25 units that don't have enough vehicles. So that's what that requirement's there for. I mean, going to kick the can down the road for 20 years. I won't be here, so not really. No, but in all seriousness, there's a great use, and it was appropriate in the findings and the information that they presented for this type of use. So
no, I don't question the waiver. I agree with it. I support it. I was just curious, how do we document it so that 20 years from now, if it does change hands,
it is in the resolution. It's the requirement is in the resolution.
Okay.
So that if somebody came and looked at the resolution, and then it still applies at that point.
Okay.
And then we would go back and revisit it at the time to see how that, because maybe the parking codes changed to 1 unit. Maybe the city's put in a parking garage in this area as part of redevelopment of the Jefferson Terminal District, and it all works out.
Okay.
I can't figure it out, but we didn't want to just give it a blanket.
But there is a mechanism in
Correct.
place that requires
Yes.
someone to look at it. Okay. Very good. Any other questions, Commissioner Lambert and President Warren?
I just wanted to echo Commissioner Ward's comments. Jeff, and to Vita Nova, thank you so much for the work that you do in this city. It's a pleasure to approve and support this project, and I'm just grateful for the work that you do. Thank you.
President Warren.
I too would like to echo those comments and to just really say what a wonderful job you're doing over at Vita Nova, Jeff DeMario and the team. The homeless issue that we're facing is heartbreaking, but there's a group that many people overlook, and that group is the youth that transition into adulthood. And we think that when they turn 18 that they're magically ready for the world, and they're not. And the fact that you focus on the youth that are aging out of foster care and doing everything to be able to stand in the gap and provide a space for them, a safe space for them to be able to continue to grow and evolve and develop skill sets is wonderful. I absolutely support this. I've had the opportunity to speak with youth at Vita Nova, and it's wonderful to be able to see the hope that they have and to experience the resiliency that you help to install in them. So thank you.
Very good. Any other questions, comments for staff or in general? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 16-24. The motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the application submitted, the staff report, and the findings that the request, subject to the conditions set forth in the resolution, complies with the interim standards established by resolution number 306-22.
Second.
386? 306, okay. It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 9.6, public hearing of resolution number 18-24 regarding a request by Harvey E. Oyer III of Schutzenborn LLP on behalf of City Place Retail LLC for the approval of a Level 3 site plan to construct a 21-story tower and a 23-story tower consisting of approximately 744,492 square feet of office and 63,890 square feet of retail, including a parking structure and ground-level public open space with waivers at 550 South Rosemary Avenue within the City Place Commercial Plan Development. Mr. Oyer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Commission members. For the record, Harvey Oyer of Schutz & Bowen on behalf of the applicant, which is City Place Retail LLC, better known to you all as the related companies. So this is a Level 3 site plan approval, as the mayor stated. You have jurisdiction over this, even though it's in the downtown, because it's part of the City Place DRI. So normally a project like this would not come to you, it would come to DAC. But in the defined boundaries of the City Place DRI, even though the underlying DMP rules that DAC normally enforces apply to this site, it comes to you if you're wondering why I am before you with this project. It is located in what we know as the AMC movie theater block, which is where Brio Comedy Club and one of the parking garages is located. It constitutes a full city block between Hibiscus and Gardenia, the FEC Railroad to the east, and Rosemary Avenue to the west. The development program proposed for this site is 2 Class A office buildings, the east being 23 stories in height, the west being 21 stories in height. And incidentally, this is not a zoning issue. The zoning is already in place, allows up to a 25-story building. This is purely the site plan approval process. The development program is about 745,000 square feet of Class A office building divided between those 2 buildings, about 64,000 square feet of retail on the ground and second and third levels, 10,000 square feet of public open space, another 11,000 square feet of public open space in a passageway, so collectively call it about 21,000 square feet of public open space. Over 1,300 parking spaces. Most of those are below grade, underground. Some of those are integrated into the east tower, but wrapped with fenestration, so not seen by the public. And a few of those spaces are coming from the Hibiscus parking garage. So the request includes 9 waivers. I'm not going to go through them here. This is simply a summary. I will go through each of those individually in a moment. But let's talk about the general site plan. You have an east tower, a west tower, and a parking garage. The parking garage exists today. It will be torn down and rebuilt on a nearly identical footprint. Why do that? Well, A, it's a 25-year-old garage, and not the way you'd build a garage today, EV parking stations and so forth. But we want to create a full block underground parking garage to bury mechanical, noisy things that you would prefer to not have in the public realm, and to put a lot of the parking underground so we don't have tall parking podiums underneath the buildings. So to accomplish both of those goals, we're going to take down the old garage, build a new modern, nearly identical garage on almost an identical footprint. You'll notice that in the center is this public open space that we call a paseo or a passageway, and a large plaza at the corner of the intersection of Hibiscus and Rosemary. Those are for several purposes, mainly to break up the massing of the building and create some breathability and porosity in this block. If we were to build strictly to the code, because it's a new urbanist code where the development comes to the street edge, it'd feel very heavy and bulky. And so most of the waivers that I'm seeking approval for this evening are created by moving the buildings further away from the street edge and opening up the breathability of this block. Moreover, in looking to the future planning of this area, Related controls the Ballet Village site to the north, which is the block between Gardenia and Fern. Someday, if that is redeveloped, we would like to have a diagonal passageway for pedestrians directly to the Bright Line station so that pedestrians are not forced to walk in a rectangular grid down Quadrille or down Rosemary. They can cut directly from the Harriet Himmel Theater diagonally through the future development to the train station. So multiple purposes for these large public open spaces. You will also notice the curvilinear nature of the buildings. Again, this is to soften what would otherwise be a lot of massing in the area. It provides architectural diversity and articulation. You'll notice that there are also multiple layers of upper story setbacks. So buildings with a lot of movement, a lot of wedding cake, upper story setbacks, a lot of usable outdoor terraces, which, as we have discovered from 360 Rosemary, are highly sought after. and we are attempting to incorporate those into these buildings as well. So this is the basement plan, which is parking and mechanicals. And this is the above-ground plan. You'll see in blue at the bottom is the basement garage. In the previous slide, the existing garage that will be rebuilt on the east tower and the west tower, and then shaded in the background, the darker shading is the existing 360 Rosemary building, 18 stories, already completed and fully occupied, and the lighter shading is the 515 Fern building that is approved but as yet unbuilt. So we wanted you to have a full feel for the context of the neighborhood looking north from the middle of the square proper. This also gives you a contextual view of what is going on in the neighborhood, where other tall buildings are located. And, you know, this has been an evolutionary shift from the original downtown master plan, which contemplated a lot of height east of the FEC Railroad in the more traditional urban core. And as we've actually evolved, primarily instigated by the arrival of Brightline, is the development is clustering around the transit centers, which is exactly what the urban planners wanted to occur. So we're seeing more of the density clustering around the Brightline station than where 25 years ago and even 10 years ago we thought it might cluster. And that's a good thing, because that is one less railroad crossing for most of the people to make, and it allows for better mobility. Again, more contextual, you can see in yellow the proposed site. Immediately next door to the west is the former Macy's site. That's topped out. That'll open this year. That's at 21 stories. As you know, the Publix block can go at least the south half of it to 25 stories. Again, 360 Rosemary is built and fully occupied at 18 stories. 515 Fern is approved as of yet unbuilt at 25 stories. So you get the idea. The height and intensity in our downtown is now clustering around that couple of block radius from the Brightline station, which is a good thing. Now, let's discuss those 9 waivers in detail. I've lumped them together for similar waivers. Waivers 1 and 2 both have to do with active use liners. Short education on this, because I know you don't normally do downtown projects, but our code requires an active use liner on the ground floor so that pedestrians are not walking past blank walls with no human activity. And it also requires, but to a lesser degree, active use liners on the upper stories. So on the first floor, which is the pedestrian level, we meet the code requirement. And for most of the second and third floors, we meet the active use requirement because this is an active use. But recall I stated that part of the parking is integrated into the base of the east tower. There is no parking in the west tower. So all of the parking is either underground, integrated into the east tower, or integrated into the to-be rebuilt parking garage. Well, not on the first floor, but on the second and third levels, on the hibiscus frontage only, we are required to have 60% active use, and we are at 52%. That is occasioned solely by integrating this garage into this building, and they have to be considered as one building. That's still a better thing than having a standalone parking garage and a standalone building. These can be accessed between each other. But it does create a technical variance. I will show you on the next slide how we're going to treat and mitigate that. It'll look identical to the office building. No one will know that there's cars behind it rather than human beings. The second waiver that is related is on the Gardenia side, which is on the north side of the building, and that is a reduction from the 50% active use requirement on levels 4 and 5 to 26%. Again, that will not be seen. So the public policy reason for having active use liners on parking garages is so that we are not looking at ventilated parking garages. That's not as good of a pedestrian experience as an active use. Well, there will be an active use on the first floor and the second and third floors, but on 4 and 5, These will be windows that look just like the office windows. No one will know that there's vehicles parked behind it. That's what allows us the integration. Notably, there is no active use diminishment on the west building, which is the more public facing of the two buildings. So we actively decided to bury this parking issue in the building that is less likely to be seen by the public. Waiver number 3 is a total lot area coverage waiver. The total lot area coverage above 60 feet. So we do not violate it below the floor highlighted in red or above the floor highlighted in red, but the floor highlighted in red exceeds the lot coverage once again because it is integrated horizontally with the parking garage. If we were not integrated horizontally with the parking garage, we wouldn't have triggered the waiver. But we need that layer of parking for the project to work. It's very de minimis. We're at 62%. The code is 55%. It's a difference of 10,000 square feet. And again, that parking garage exists today. Waivers 4 and 5 have to do with setbacks. And this speaks to my prior statement of the design that we intentionally created to pull the massing back from the street edge and to have multiple breaks in the setbacks as the building goes up, which we think makes it a better project and a better building, actually creates waiver request. I normally stand before you asking for a setback waiver to move a building closer to the property line. This is a little counterintuitive. It is the reverse of that. I'm asking for your permission to move the building back and have less building coverage. So let's go through these one by one. I'll start with the one on the south side on Hibiscus. Your code requires a planar break. And what a planar break is you cannot have a building that goes on and on. We want our buildings to be broken up. And that planar break requires that the parking garage and this building have a separation between them. Well, we created that separation. Quite frankly, we would have created that separation even if there were not a planar break requirement because we want the soft curvilinear edge on this building. When we do that, we are forced to measure from the innermost point back to the property line. And when we do that, we now exceed the maximum setback of 54 feet. We're at 74 feet. So we are seeking a waiver, your permission to set the building back further. Similarly, on the north side, on the Gardenia Street side, not on the first floor, we meet the setback requirement on the first floor, but on the second floor, again, we very intentionally pulled the massing of the building back further to allow more breathability in the block, and that triggered about a 6-foot waiver requirement. And finally, on the northwest corner of the project, again, occasioned by the curvilinear nature of the building, because if we had squared the building off here, we would have met code. But because we pulled this back to create more porosity in the project, it triggered another waiver request. So all of these are occasioned by our desire to allow that block to breathe and read better. Waiver 6 is a podium setback on the west tower only, whereas the last slide we were talking about the east tower. Now we're talking about the west tower. Again, this setback is an increased setback, more setback. We're trying to provide more setback than the code allows. And again, it's created in part by the curvilinear nature of the building, but more so it's created by this. We wanted a wider sidewalk on Rosemary. This is the Rosemary side. But yet we wanted protection from the elements. So we created this large, I don't know what it is, 25 or 30 feet of active use with the building cantilevered over the top of it so that we protect pedestrians from the elements, make it feel safe and usable, and also very wide. And in doing that, the measurement is to the inside face of the building on these two floors, which does not meet code, and we are seeking a waiver for that, though the rest of the building is cantilevered at the red hashed line, so the remainder of the building does meet that setback requirement. And finally, waivers 7 through 9 all have to do with street tree requirements. Your code requires that street trees be planted at a minimum of 30 feet on center, which we do everywhere on the project, except where you can't do it, which are the vehicular access points. Not sure why the code doesn't make an exception for that, but probably should. We still meet the total tree requirement. We've just clustered more trees closer together elsewhere on the property. So there are 3 locations that we do not meet that 30-foot minimum separation, and it's the 2 access points to the garage, and it's the transit stop and drop-off area on Rosemary. Otherwise, all the trees are provided just elsewhere and planted closer together. So those are the waiver requests, but most of all, I wanted to give you a feel for the quality of the architecture and construction. As you know, Related is a best-in-class developer, and every building they've done is better than the last generation of building, and these buildings will be no exception to that trend. So this is the east tower. This is the west tower. Heavy landscaping. You'll notice the outdoor terraces. Very successful addition to 360 Rosemary and 1 Flagler will be repeated here. And this is from the Harriet Himmel looking north into that Paseo or open area. And what you can see is a little sliver of 360 Rosemary, the future 515 Fern, the existing park line. It gives you a feel for how open this is, how big the setbacks of the buildings are, how the buildings staircase up. So a number of community benefits. I'm not going to read all of these to you. They were in your agenda material. I did want to highlight that, like the Macy's building, all workers during the development of the site will be paid a minimum of the Palm Beach County living wage. At least 15% of all construction services will be provided by SBE, MBE, WBE located in Palm Beach County. I'm proud to say we've exceeded our minimum percentage on all of our prior projects, and we intend to do that here as well. Sustainability, very similar. We have a minimum LEED silver standard, green roof, solar installations, on-site water retention, EV charging stations. We will meet and exceed those, which we're very proud of. And of course, this continues to develop the safety, security, and offerings in this part of our city. We have a number of letters of support, including support from all 4 of the residential HOAs located in City Place. We are proud to continue to have the support of all of our neighbors. So this is Brightline, it is Merchants, it is those various HOAs. All of these were in your backup material. The City Place CDD, the Chamber of Commerce, the DDA. We meet all of the standards for your review found in Section 94-35C. I won't go through these unless you would like me to. Staff agrees we comply with all of them. We appeared in front of the Planning Board on December 19th and received a unanimous recommendation of approval. Staff recommends approval with 6 conditions, and the applicant agrees to all 6 conditions. So with that, I will stop and entertain any questions that you have. Thank you for the opportunity to present this very exciting project.
Thank you for that presentation, Mr. Oyer. Any questions for the applicant before we move to staff? Commissioner Fox.
Thank you so much. It's really exciting. I have looked at this before, and I just am really excited every time I look at it. Last week, Gopal came to the Downtown Neighborhood Association and had the opportunity to present to about 100 people who came out in the pouring rain, and he would probably still be there talking if they wouldn't have closed him off, because they were really excited about it. So I'm glad to know that we are moving forward, and I'm curious, well, my first question is if there's a timeline in terms of if we vote on this tonight, what are the next steps?
I'm not the best person to answer that. Probably Jordan would be. Jordan, you want to field that?
I don't believe I was sworn in, though, if I need to do that.
Madam Clerk, can you swear him in, please?
Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Jordan Rathab on behalf of the applicant. Appreciate the question. So we are currently seeking site plan approval tonight. We have submitted for foundation permits to begin that process, so we would anticipate that would take some time with city staff to complete that, but we would anticipate, and we're hopeful, demolition wrapping up at the end of next month on the existing garage, that we would be underway by mid to late summer or early fall, but pending on the permitting process. But we have started all of that in earnest today.
You may want to stick around.
Did you have a follow-up? Anyone else? Commissioner Lambert?
I had a question. I think it was related to waiver 5 when you're talking about reducing the setbacks, and you said typically you're coming to us asking to waive the setbacks. I believe that you showed some pictures of the public open space, and I'm just wondering if maybe when you have one of those pictures up of the open space, you could talk about the setbacks and the utilization of the extra space.
Sure. I'd be delighted to. So let me get back to waiver 5. So these, other than the one at the bottom, which is a ground floor, the others are upper story. So you may be speaking to the ground plane.
Exactly.
Which I can graphically show you. We meet or slightly exceed the open space requirements, but most of these waivers are moving the building inward and creating greater setback on the upper stories, which doesn't create publicly usable space on the ground floor, but what it does do is it breaks up the building massing and allows more breathability in the block and in the entire project. So it was a design purpose more than trying to create public ground plane.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioner Fox, you said you had a follow-up or another question.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to ask you about the underground parking. I have not approved anything with underground parking since I've been here, so I can't think of any that we have in West Palm, but I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about, I guess, I know you mentioned hiding some of the things that you don't want to be seen, but is there any reason that we couldn't just build higher and not have underground? I guess my concern is, and I will leave it to you or someone from the staff that has more expertise on this subject than I do, but just when I look at some of the flooding that has gone on and, around downtown, and some of the issues environmental issues, I'm just curious about how that might impact having parking underground.
Sure, and I don't know who's best suited to address exactly what elevation this is at, but this is one of the higher elevations in the city. So it presented an opportunity to do underground parking that, for example, you may not have on Flagler Drive because the ridge slopes down. Someone want to speak to the technical part of how you keep water out?
I will not speak to that, but we may have someone who can address it. But I think the key elements here, one of the big reasons, there are a few condo projects on South Flagler that have underground parking, so there are a few precedents that are coming online. One of the biggest reasons we did the underground was to put all the mechanical equipment below grade. As Mr. Oyer presented, the West Tower, you don't see anything. It is all active, it's all storefront, it's retail, it's a very active environment that if we didn't do that, you'd have you have fire command, but you'd have chillers and all your mechanical stuff would be right on grade. So the idea was bury that so it really becomes a dynamic public open space at grade. And then we have one user in the East Tower where we've kind of segregated their parking from the rest of the population, if you will, in the East Tower garage. And to your point, we wanted to avoid building a much taller parking structure. The idea was to keep that structure as low as possible, and this allows for it. You want to talk to? We can
So
talk.
they're coming up. I think LeClaire has underground parking.
Right.
Good evening, David Harrison with Related. We're at elevation 20 and 21. Floodplain in West Palm Beach is 9.75, and you're correct. LeClaire has 2 levels of, Forte has 2 levels of underground garage also. The Hilton Hotel has a full basement underneath the site, but we took, as Jordan and Harvey were saying, we're taking advantage of being on the ridge. So we're 11 feet above anything. If we flood, we've got bigger issues.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions for the applicant before we turn to staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Staff? Mr. Schneider?
Once again, good evening for the record. Eric Schneider, Principal Planner. Not really much more I can add to Mr. Oyer's presentation. We'll show a quick, for my presentation to address the open space question a little better. So this is looking at on the left side of the screen, this is the west tower, and here's portion of the east tower. You don't see the kind of the garage part. This is the passageway in blue that comes through. It's required to be a minimum of 40 feet, so at its narrowest point, it is 40 feet. There's actually a little bit more here. You see in the white section that is open. They just highlighted on this for the open space, the portion. There's seating, trees, etc., to keep the buildings apart. And you saw some of those renderings where you could see all the way down in open view corridors until you hit the Bright Line building, which takes up the whole block east to west. So this does break the mass of these buildings. The bigger thing that was really when we started doing, and as Mr. Royer said, when the zoning regulations went into place, was really how to address the intersection here and what, the heart of Rosemary Square. The building here, the old Macy's site, has pulled back to have some open space here at the corner. This building has their bigger public open space and was required to be put on this corner, and they actually stretched it over here on the other side of the passageway. That is so that you would have more openness between the Himmel Theater, which is a lot lower scale, and then the 21 stories that are for this building. So it does open it up, and you did see that a little bit in the renderings. Landscaped, there are seating areas, pergolas, and so forth that you can see, like the darker areas here between the trees are pergolas. There's a lot of seating, bike racks, and so forth. So I hope that answers the question as to what's actually going on in this space. And then to follow up, this is the ground floor, as you can see here. This is where, on the upper levels on that waiver request, it's the private open space that pulls back, and so the ground floor of the building is along the street, but it's the upper level that pulls back. And as Mr. Royer said, we typically are having those buildings built out to the street, and there's like a range of setbacks you can be, 16 to 50 feet. I'll just throw a number out there. In this case, they're pulling back further so they can have more open space. And quite frankly, the one waiver they're asking for, where they have, they exceed the footprint. Well, they couldn't put footprint, so it's just a matter of how deep the block is north to south where they're going to put that tower, and it just ended up giving more open space on the setbacks there. So outside of that, staff did find this in compliance with the site plan review standards that are required, as did Planning Board. Recommend approval unanimously at their meeting, as Mr. Royer showed in his presentation, and we support all the waivers that they have requested, and they meet all the code requirements. Are there any other questions of staff about the project?
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Ward.
Thank you. For the waiver, when it comes to the parking and the active use on the 4th and 5th floor, or I guess what would be the 3rd and 4th from Street View, they talk about wrapping it. And so what do we do as far as our requirements internally, as far as how detailed we get on what you should be wrapping with it, how? Because that looked like part of the building in Mr. Oyer's, and I know others have done different types of wrapping, but I don't think I've seen anything to this really extent.
Okay, so on this one, and you saw the rendering, and I don't have the exact same rendering up on my presentation. So they're actually going to be spandrel glass. It's similar to what you see on the City Place office tower that's on Okeechobee. Those are garages above. The bank is on the first floor, and then you go 3 levels of a garage or 4 levels of a garage before you start getting to the office building. You wouldn't know that. Those are solid windows. Mm-hmm. The reason you don't see a lot of that is because then you have to mechanically ventilate those, which takes up more internal blowers like what we have in our garage, where you have the solid walls, it doesn't free flow. So that's why in a lot of the garages you're seeing the mesh put up, like the county convention center garage, because those are the openings and the wind can blow through. These have to be ventilated. They have to have it, and it's more expensive, as you might imagine, to do it that way. However, you can see that it definitely hides the cars. This isn't even a window where you're going to see the lights on the inside and you're going to see the cars because the lights shine through. These are going to be solid glass there, so you're not going to be able to see it through. So it does screen it, it does hide it, it does, and one of the requirements is to make that the kind of standalone portion garage. They are connected. I don't want to make it sound like there's two different buildings there. Make it look as it wraps around. So they took care in their architecture to make it look like that on the tower portion of the building. They do have mesh. If you're standing on the FEC side, that's one of the renderings that wasn't shown. If you're going to be standing looking on Quadrille at the building, there's a mesh screen. There's a couple layers of it, and walls, so you won't see headlights, but it's going to look more like a traditional thing. However, that side didn't have the requirement of the active use in the code because it's against the railroad tracks. And that's also, as mentioned, the 40% or 60% active liner. There is an ability to have some parking garage that isn't completely, screened off. In the nature of an office building, the floor plates for these Class A office buildings, they can't line those. It's not a depth that's feasible. So given how they're screening it, staff felt that did meet the code requirement, the intent of the code to not have visible parking. Did I answer your question?
Thank you. Yes, it did.
Any other questions for staff? Any other questions generally? If not, we have a couple of cards. Dennis Grady and Donald Burgess.
Mr. Mayor, members of the commission, my name is Dennis Grady and I serve as chairman of the City Place Community Development District Board of Supervisors. It's within the district that this project will take place. And I'm here to inform you that the Board of Supervisors has voted unanimously to support the East-West Tower site plan before you this evening. Because of the surge of business and corporate relocations to West Palm Beach, we are experiencing an unprecedented demand for Class A office space. Your approval tonight will assist in meeting this demand. The plan also contains 20,000 square feet of open space, which will serve pedestrian traffic and also aligns with the city's mobility plan. For these reasons and many more cited by Mr. Oyer, we urge you to support the East-West Towers site plan as recommended by your staff. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Donald Burgess.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. Donald Burgess, President and CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. The leadership at the Chamber of Commerce of the Palm Beaches was invited to review the East-West Towers site plan that you saw today, and we're pleased to announce our endorsement of the proposed development. That area known as the square will be enhanced by these two buildings that will not only provide office space for relocating and expanding businesses, but also provide easier walkability for pedestrians who traverse that area by creating a public walkway that connects to the greater downtown. The project addresses the growing need for Class A office space within the downtown area and offers opportunities for retail and restaurant space, along with improvements to the pedestrian experience. As you contemplate this matter, please keep in mind that Related has committed to paying all workers at the Palm Beach County living wage during construction, and 15% of all construction services will be provided by small business, women, or minority-owned enterprises. There's also significant contribution to the city's tax revenues to be considered. Recognizing the positive impact that such developments have on our city's economic landscape and urban fabric, we are delighted to support Related Company's proposal. This is another truly transformative project, and as the Chamber's CEO, and keeping in mind the recommendation of the Planning Board at their December 19 meeting, I strongly encourage you to support for the 550 South Rosemary Avenue development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all the cards. So, Commissioners, any questions, comments? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 18-24. This motion is based upon the factual testimony presented, the application submitted, the staff report, the recommendation of the planning board, and the findings that the level 3 site plan meets the site design qualitative development standards found in Section 94-35C of the City of West Palm Beach zoning and land development regulations, city concurrency requirements, and the condition of approval contained in ordinance number 5038-23 as applicable.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing no opposition, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. We will now turn to comments from the general public. And I have two cards here, Sandy Makovich and Michael Cleveland. Sandy Makovich, look like she's here. Okay, Michael Cleveland.
Good evening, Mayor, staff, people in the audience, commissioners. Michael Cleveland, West Palm. I want to give my thanks to staff and the mayor for having that gate at Pleasant City Recreation with a panic bar device placed on it. However, I still have concerns about the steps. If you want to put on blindfold and come out of the building, see if you drop down about 4 feet. Kill yourself. It needs to be addressed. Both exits. The cemetery, Evergreen. The living should be respected as well as the dead. That cemetery is in bad condition. Staff's out there. I'm not sure if that's the way they were supposed to maintain it, but it's not being maintained properly. People are walking their dogs out there, doing all kinds of stuff out there. Plus, you can't have access to the cemetery on Sundays. It's always locked, the gate. Something needs to be done. Those families that have people out there, such as myself, certainly would like to see improvements and be able to visit at times when we see most fit. Sidewalks throughout the city, there's a lot of hazards, particularly out in the Pleasant City area. Sidewalks is 2 and 3 inches raised above, someone trip over. I do think that's a city hazard and may wind in some type of law litigations. Pickleball court being built next to me, my late mother's residence. I'm still unhappy with it, but I would like to address the issues of operation, hours of operation. My understanding, they want to be open until 11 o'clock p.m. That can't happen. It shouldn't happen. Music on Northwood Road exceeds after midnight, just about every night. I know there's an ordinance. If I live on 20th and I hear it, then I know it's loud. I appreciate somebody doing something about it. I don't want to get up and go over there and be nasty. Excuse me. Had something else I wanted to address. Well, I guess that'll do it for now. Have a wonderful evening. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Johnson, can you have Parks and Rec look into this Evergreen Cemetery situation and then report to me on what their plans are? That's all the cards, so we'll now turn to commissions from members of the dais, and we'll start with the President, President Warren.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I'd like to congratulate you on a wonderful State of the City event last week, where you were able to go over some of the successes and milestones that the city achieved within the last 12 months of this administration. Lots of information was shared. I think people learned things and saw things in a different way than they'd seen previously. And some people from outside of the area were able to really see the benefit of being here in West Palm Beach. So thank you for that, and congratulations. It was sold out again.
Thank you. I don't know if it was sold out or not. But.
It was sold out. And there was a great Martin Luther King breakfast. And I just want to just take a moment to just talk about a few different events that have taken place within the last week or so. Today, I had the opportunity to, and the pleasure to attend an event with the Forum and the Jewish Federation of Palm Beach County, the Jewish Community Relations Council, and the Palm Beach Center to Combat Anti-Semitism and Hatred. Wonderful discussion with Barry Weiss. It was very meaningful, and I think that so many people would have found it provocative to engage and understand the things that are going on, things that have happened since October the 7th, and ways that they can come together in order to combat anti-Semitism. There was a wonderful ribbon cutting also today for the Marshall and Vera Lee Richter building for the business hall and groundbreaking over at Palm Beach Atlantic University, where I had the opportunity to meet with my colleagues and celebrate that enormous event. I'm looking forward to all of the great minds that will be stimulated at the Rinker Business Center. This past Saturday, January 20th, the Promise Fund of Florida conducted their annual bridge lighting. I hope many people had the opportunity to attend that and see the bridge turn pink and see the pink boots on the ground. It's important work that they're doing to raise awareness as it relates to cervical and breast cancer, and to provide free services to people that may not have the means in which to go and get the medical attention that they need. Tomorrow night, I'll be attending the Celebration of Black Philanthropy with the Community Foundation of Palm Beach and Martin Counties. The Community Foundation has led philanthropy locally for over 50 years with transformative grant making and scholarships, and help close our community's opportunity gaps. If you would like to learn more about the organization, please visit, please make a donation, and you can go to yourcommunityfoundation.org. We also had a ribbon cutting for the Eva W. Mack Community Hub. And what was really meaningful to that, about that to me, is just a celebration of our city's ability to come together for public, private, and community-based organizations working together to support the people that we know are in the greatest need. And talking about the Eva W. Mack Community Hub, I'd just like to say a few words about Eva Williams Mack and her legacy. She was a teacher, an entrepreneur. She was a social activist, a community advocate. She was a nurse for the health department. She worked with the Palm Beach County School District, and she actually recruited other nurses to come to West Palm Beach. She worked to improve the quality of life of families suffering with sickle cell disease, and started the Sickle Cell Foundation out of her home on Beautiful Street. Something that I think is important to note is that in the 1960s, Eva Williams Mack headed the first successful capital campaign to improve Pleasant City, one of West Palm Beach's oldest neighborhoods, and she lobbied the Palm Beach County School District for health classes in all grades. I think that we should never forget the legacy of people like Eva W. Mack and what that legacy means, and I hope, again, that it serves as inspiration to many, many more people in another generation to come to know how important they are to our community success. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Fox?
Thank you, Mayor. I think we all received this, but Jennifer Sullivan from the Cultural Council, I guess every 5 years they do a study on the impact of the arts in Palm Beach County, and then they also go through the top cities in those in the county. And she sent us a specific report for West Palm Beach that says West Palm Beach art and culture generates $214 million in annual economic impact, $35 million in local, state, and federal tax revenue, 2,500 jobs, and 2.5 million attendees to arts and performances each year just in the city of West Palm Beach through arts and culture. And I just thought that was a pretty incredible statistic that we don't hear a lot about. I mean, we're talking a lot about our Wall Street South and, some of the other companies that are locating here, and thinking about the arts and how beneficial it is to our tourism, to just health and wellness of, I think, having those kinds of exposure to those kind of arts that are so close by, but also the number of jobs every year that, I think we not take for granted, but I don't think we talk about it a lot. And I just am very excited to read the rest of the report. It's about 50 pages. You'll all have it, but I just wanted to highlight that because I think it's pretty exciting that we have those opportunities here. And we should all be reminded to be attending the more, going to the Norton, going to the Kravis, all those kinds of things that are available to us. So that was very exciting. I wanted to mention that West Palm Beach Center for Arts and Technology will be having their first culinary program that is starting February 6th. This is an opportunity for anyone who is interested in a culinary career to enroll in these classes. These are free classes. They're doing great things, trying to provide some of the top in-demand job opportunities for people that might not be able to afford college. And this is an exciting opportunity. I know that there's a lot of organizations that are hiring for this. So if you know anyone that would like to sign up, it's WPB-CAT.org, and the classes start February 6th. I also wanted to say that the final community engagement meeting for giving feedback for our new shuttle route will be Thursday, February 1st. I know that there's been about 3 of those mobility events. I know some of my colleagues have attended. I attended one last week. I think the entire Roosevelt Estates neighborhood showed up to give their opinions that they would hope that our next shuttle would have a stop in Roosevelt Estates. So I just wanted to mention to any other residents out there that have input or would like to see their neighborhoods appear on our future routes to please attend on Thursday, February 1st from 6 to 7. It's at Palm Beach Opera at 425 24th Street. And I also just wanted to say a huge congratulations to PBAU. Such an exciting groundbreaking for our city today. There are going to be so many new opportunities for the workforce of tomorrow, and right there in our Wall Street South, just steps from one Flagler. So I think it's going to be a great pipeline for all the new businesses coming here and just really exciting opportunities for the city. And that's all I have.
Commissioner Lambert.
Thank you. I'm struck by all of the events that my colleagues have just mentioned going on in the city. We really do have so much going on. And, as I reflected on last week, Mayor, your State of the City really highlighted everything that this city has going on. And well, it seemed like everything, but it seems like there's so much more. And I just wanted to, say congratulations on the state of the city and thank you to all the staff who work so hard throughout the year to make all that happen. I also wanted to touch on, I know there have been some questions about the road closure at Georgia and Southern. There's work by the Florida Department of Transportation on the bridge there, and they have informed us that that should be ending very soon, hopefully open up by the end of this week, beginning of next week, and that the project will be done by the end of the month. So those of us who like to use that as a fun passageway to downtown from the south end, that'll be opening back up. Also wanted to say thank you and to let folks know that the installation of the new tidal valve was recently completed at Bloomfield Drive and at South Flagler Drive. And I know many of us have been tracking this to help alleviate flooding and standing water that comes from heavy rains, standing water, and king tides. So I know that this is part of our resiliency commitment in the city and that more tidal valves are coming. And then finally, I wanted to make sure that people know about this great partnership that the city has with United Way for free tax preparation services at the Eva Mack Community Hub. And this started on the 18th of January and will go through April 15th. And there's no appointment necessary, and we will have Spanish translation services available there as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Peduzzi.
Thank you, Mayor. First off, congratulations on a very successful State of the City. Congratulations personally to you for delivering it so well, and to your speechwriter, who's obviously very talented. I'm sure that you had input in writing that speech too. I don't mean to imply that you didn't.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Congratulations to the entire city of West Palm Beach, to the staff. We know how hard you work all year to make all the good things that are happening in the city a reality. So thank you. It was great seeing all my colleagues at the Palm Beach Atlantic University groundbreaking today. This new building for the Rinker School of Business is going to be a tremendous asset, not only to the school, but to the entire city of West Palm Beach. So congratulations to PBAU. And then IBIS Charities Food Drive reminder this Sunday, the 28th, 1 to 4 p.m. At the old POA building before you get to the gates of IBIS on the right-hand side in front of IBIS. Hopefully I will see everyone there. I know that in past years everyone's been there, and we've collected a tremendous amount of food for those who are needy and in need of food here in Palm Beach County, and hopefully this year will be just as successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward?
Thank you. I was marking things off my list that I was mentioning because I pulled up the same stats as you when it came, Commissioner Fox, it came to those arts and culture stats, which was so cool, and I was so glad that she shared that with us. And then the community engagement at Ava Mack, and then, of course, congratulations to the mayor. I had heads of a number of my neighborhoods sitting with me, and it was interesting hearing their responses to even just the discussion on the bone implantation in the beginning of like just the wild things that we have and the mines that we have located in this area, and then just the local stats. So it's always informative, and I was glad that some of the residents who usually don't get to attend chamber meetings were there. As far as the commentary on the Evergreen Cemetery, and thank you, Mayor, for your comments on that. Representative Edmonds sent me a while ago, and I shared this with your staff and as well as RISE in the hopes that one or both will apply. Local governments and qualified nonprofit organizations can apply for grants up to $50,000 for the purpose of repairing, restoring, maintaining abandoned African American cemeteries, which I think Evergreen definitely qualifies for. If anybody who's listening or my other commissioners haven't been there, there's a lot of history in there, but it's almost hard to drive around because it just doesn't have the maintenance that requires, and some of the dates on the gravestones will probably shock you, and even people that have died for this country and represented this country. So if you haven't been there, please check it out. But I think that's easy money to help maintain or restore some of that cemetery. And summer camp scholarship program applications for summer 2024 will open on Monday, January 29th, and will run to April 12th. The program provides full tuition and fees for summer camps for children residing in families with income at or below 185% of the federal poverty guidelines. It allows parents to work with the knowledge that their children are safe, and the program gives children educational and recreational opportunities for growth. Once the application process opens, the Youth Services Department will offer extended hours on Tuesdays and Thursdays by appointment only to assist with applications, and then staff will also be available at various county libraries in February and April to assist with parent applications, but you can contact our office to get more information. National Seed Swap Day. In honor of National Seed Swap Day, the city will be exchanging seeds with neighbors on Saturday, January 27th between 10 and 11 at the Coleman Park Community Garden located at 1116 21st Street. There'll be a variety of herbs, vegetables, and native wildflower seeds, and volunteers are being requested. So again, please contact my office if you would like to participate or get more information. And I don't think this was mentioned, Community Partners of South Florida is holding 2 sessions of home buyer education where residents can repair their credit, pre-qualify for a mortgage, learn how to close on a mortgage for a first home, and more. And it's not something that's learned in high school, so it's valuable information. The first virtual session is Tuesday, January 23rd, which is tomorrow from 5:30 to 8:30. For more details, again, please contact my office. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Very briefly, and thank you, commissioners, for the congratulations on the state of the city. But what I will say is what I mentioned to the employees at the employee recognition event last Friday. That is really an accomplishment of us as a team up here on the dais. I mean, all the good news that we shared. I'm the face of the city being the mayor, but at the end of the day, all those accomplishments could not have been achieved without the support of the legislative body. So you should certainly pat yourselves on the back, and I do need to publicly commend my communications team under the able leadership of Diane Papadakis. They had all hands on deck at the event. There was live streaming and all kind of other technical stuff that I don't know about, Instagram, Facebook. I don't know. They did a great job. So publicly, thank you, Diane and your team. She did a yeoman's job drafting the initial draft. Okay, the speech, but yours truly had a lot to do with it. It was a team effort, yes. But no, it was, and I truly appreciate the kind remarks. But it is just amazing when you look back over the past year of how much we as a city have accomplished and done. And again, I say that is a we. It's a team effort. The power of us. I talk about that. And so we all have a lot to be proud of. And do we have work to do? Absolutely. And I mentioned that in the speech. But on the other hand, we should take a moment to certainly acknowledge the significant progress that we as a city have made, and certainly with the contributions of you all as the legislative body. So thank you. The Mandel Public Library is offering free tax prep services on the 3rd floor in the Hibiscus Room beginning on this Wednesday, through February 8th. So visit our website, WPB.org, for specific dates and times. On Thursday, January 25th, I will be participating in the dedication of the Gindelman Children's Holocaust Memorial. This is a beautiful monumental bronze sculpture adorned with over 5,000 ceramic butterflies. And each butterfly is a poignant tribute memorializing a child lost to the atrocities of the Nazis. So this awe-inspiring sculpture serves as a centerpiece of the Holocaust learning experience on Morse Life's campus on Haverhill Boulevard in West Palm Beach. The dedication will begin at 5 p.m. And on that same day, January 25th, you can experience the Moonlight Cemetery Tour, a historical journey through South Florida's past. I've never taken a cemetery tour, but that may be a thing. Guided by local historians, this tour unveils captivating narratives, so check out our website. Black History Month is coming up in just a couple of weeks. And in observance of that, West Palm Beach invites you to partake in a reflective celebration that pays homage to the resilient spirit and creative brilliance of the Black community. Join us in several events as we acknowledge the impactful contributions of local trailblazers whose enduring legacy has enriched the culture of our city. With that said, I urge everyone to attend the Enlightening Black History Month events at the Mandel Public Library in celebration of our shared history and a testament to the contributions of the Black community. And before I close, I'd like to share with everyone that we were honored to be visited today at 3 p.m. by the United States Secretary of Transportation. He was right here in City Hall. Secretary Buttigieg stopped by for a meeting with me and staff to learn more about our safe streets and roads for all and our Vision Zero initiative. So we shared with him that the city has been committed to Vision Zero since 2018, and we've delivered 15 completed projects worth over $50 million since adoption. And I have to say it was a very engaging conversation with the secretary. He was, as you all know, he's a former mayor, and he happened to be in Fort Lauderdale at a speaking engagement and his team sought me out at the end of last week and specifically requested that if we can have a meeting. And so we worked out the logistics and the time, and he was here. We spent over half an hour together just talking, and it was nice to hear a federal cabinet member approach problems and understand the issues from a mayor's perspective. As you all know, he was formerly the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, and I did learn that he was at Harvard several years after I was, I'm sure he would say several years after I was. But we did live in the same dorm in our upper class years, sophomore through senior years, Leverett House. So we shared that. But anyway, so again, I think that's a testament to our city and our being on the national radar, that a federal cabinet member would take time out of his schedule to stop by and to share some ideas and thoughts on transportation. And that's all I have. Thank you all very much. Have a good evening, everyone. This meeting is adjourned.